Topic gingiva. Important question from this topic is given here on the screen. Let's begin the topic. Oral mucosa. Oral mucosa is a membrane lining the inside of oral cavity. So all the membrane that line inside the oral cavity is known as oral mucosa. And this oral mucosa is divided into masticatory, specialized and lining mucosa. Masticatory mucosa is one that bears the forces of mastication, and the structure are gingiva and the hard palate. The structures under masticatory mucosa is gingiva and the hard palate. In specialized mucosa, there is dorsum of the tongue that contain the taste bud or taste receptors. And apart from masticatory and lining mucosa, masticatory and specialized mucosa is the lining mucosa. And the structures that are there in the lining mucosa is alveolar mucosa, vestibular fornix, floor of the mouth, lips, cheek, soft palate, ventral surface of the tongue. And lining mucosa constitutes 60% of the area, masticatory mucosa constitute 25% of the area, and specialized mucosa constitute 15% of the area. So the difference between masticatory mucosa and the lining mucosa is the masticatory mucosa, first of all, the difference in the area that is covered by the masticatory mucosa and the lining mucosa is masticatory mucosa covers 25% of the area and the lining mucosa covers 60% of the area. Masticatory mucosa, just because it bears the forces of mastication, so it is keratinized structure. With the lining mucosa, it is non-keratinized. The masticatory mucosa is not distensible because it is firmly bound to underlying structures, whereas lining mucosa is distensible structure. Masticatory mucosa is firmly bound and lining is relatively loosely bound. The structure that are there in the masticatory mucosa is gingiva and the palatal mucosa, or the covering of the hard palate. And the structure that are there in the lining mucosa we have already discussed in the last slide. Definition, coming on to the definition of gingiva. According to the Glickman, the gingiva is the part of oral mucosa. We have already discussed the oral mucosa. It is the part of oral mucosa that covers the alveolar process of the jaw and surrounds the neck of the teeth. And according to American Academy of Periodontology, it is a fibrous investing tissue covered by keratinized epithelium which immediately surrounds a tooth and is continuous with the periodontal ligament with the mucosal tissue of the mouth. The gingiva is further divided into marginal and attached gingiva. The marginal gingiva and the attached gingiva. The marginal gingiva is further divided into gingival sulcus and interdental area. So first of all, we will be discussing the macroanatomy of the gingiva. So in macroanatomy, first of all, we will be discussing the marginal gingiva or free gingiva, and then we will be discussing attached gingiva and later on interdental gingiva. So we can see in the diagram there is mucosa and this is attached gingiva. So the difference between the two, is not only the surface. The surface texture of the two is quite different. Not over that, the blood supply of alveolar mucosa is quite rich as compared to that of attached gingiva. So this is marginal gingiva. Now coming on to the marginal gingiva. Marginal gingiva, that as the name suggests, the gingiva that is around the margin of tooth. It is also known as free gingiva or movable gingiva. Again going back to the same picture, this is the marginal gingiva. As the name suggests, it is located around the margin of tooth. And it is also known as free gingiva because it is not bound to the surface of tooth or root. So there is a space between the gingiva and the crown, or the crown of the tooth. So this is known as marginal gingiva or free gingiva. It is 1 millimeter wide. It is separated from attached gingiva by free gingival groove in 50% of the cases. it is separated from the attached gingiva by gingival groove, which is not present in all the cases. It is not stippled, but it is keratinized. It is surrounded by teeth in collar-like fashion. Gingival sulcus. Now, gingival sulcus is a shallow crevice or space, that is the space that is around the tooth. It is bounded by surface of tooth on one side. As we can see in this diagram, there is tooth on one side and epithelial lining the free gingiva on the other. So the structure, it is bounded by tooth on one side and gingival margin on the other. And the shape is, it is V shape, and it barely permits the entrance of periodontal probe. And under absolute normal condition, depth of sulcus is 0. We'll see the depth of sulcus in various, we'll be looking at the depth of sulcus in various conditions. Now, location of the gingival sulcus. So this crevice is located around the surface of tooth, having tooth on one side and gingiva on the other. So the boundaries are inner boundaries. This is inner boundary. It is formed by the tooth surface, enamel or cementum, or both, depending upon the position of junctional epithelium. And the outer boundary, looking at the side, the outer boundary is made by the sulcular epithelium, and the base is formed by the junctional epithelium. Depth of gingival sulcus under absolute ideal condition is 0 mm. This ideal condition can only be produced experimentally in germ-free animal after intense plaque control. Histological depth of gingival sulcus is 1.8 mm. And probing depth of clinically healthy human gingival sulcus is 2 to 3 mm. The probing depth in deciduous teeth is near about 1 mm or less than 1 mm. And probing depth around implant or dental implant is 2.5 mm to 4 mm. Clinical evaluation used to determine the depth of sulcus is done with a metallic instrument. How we'll find out the depth of the sulcus? It is by a metallic instrument that is known as periodontal probe. Gingival sulcus depth is higher in mixed dentition followed by permanent dentition, and it is minimum in primary dentition. Gingival sulcus depth is minimum in primary dentition. Significance of gingival sulcus. The anatomy of gingival sulcus is ideal for bacterial growth because it is resistant to washing and cleaning action of the saliva. The anatomy is such, the V-shaped area is such that this area is resistant to washing and cleaning action of the saliva as well as of the gingiva. So this area is prone to accumulate more of plaque and calculus. The gingival fluid, sulcular fluid, provide a rich nutrient source for microorganisms. The clinical determination of depth of gingival sulcus is important diagnostic parameter. This gingival sulcus depth is a very important diagnostic parameter. If the depth is 2 to 3 mm, as we have already discussed in clinically healthy human gingival sulcus, this condition will be ideal. But if the depth increase, which is due to breakdown of underlying connective tissue, then this condition is known as formation of periodontal pocket or periodontitis. So this depth of the sulcus that is deepened, this is a case of periodontal pocket, and this area where breakdown of tissue is not there, this is gingival sulcus. So this is a very important diagnostic criteria. Attached gingiva. Coming on to the attached gingiva. Attached gingiva is continuous with the marginal gingiva. As we can see, this is attached gingiva and this is continuous with the marginal gingiva. This is marginal gingiva and this is attached gingiva. It is firm, resilient and tightly bound to underlying periosteum. It is demarcated from alveolar mucosa by mucogingival junction. We have already seen in the diagram what were the basic difference between the alveolar mucosa and the attached gingiva, and how it is demarcated by a mucogingival junction. Width of attached gingiva. In maxilla, The width of attached gingiva is maximum in maxillary incisors area and it is minimum in mandibular premolar area. Significance of attached gingiva. It gives support to the marginal gingiva, help to withstand functional stresses, provides solid base for movable alveolar mucosa, help to prevent soft tissue recession and attachment loss. And help in connective tissue attachment. So, significance of attached gingiva is it gives support to the marginal gingiva and help to withstand functional forces that are there during mastication, provide solid base for movable alveolar mucosa, and help to prevent soft tissue recession and attachment loss because it is firmly bound to the underlying structure, and it also helps in connective tissue attachment. If inadequate zone of gingival, if inadequate zone of attached gingiva is there, then subgingival plaque formation will be there, attachment loss and soft tissue recession will be there. Moreover, this if inadequate width of attached gingiva is there with decreased vestibular depth, it will impede oral hygiene measure. Now coming on to the measurement of attached gingiva, width of attached gingiva, we'll be looking at the width of attached gingiva and the thickness of attached gingiva. This area is known as thickness of attached gingiva and this is known as width of attached gingiva. Width of attached gingiva definition: the distance between the mucogingival junction and the projection on the external surface of the bottom of gingival sulcus or the periodontal pocket. Width of attached gingiva can be measured by various ways. First is measurement method, then functional test or tension test. Next is staining, roll test, local anesthesia test, and OPG assessment method. Measurement method. First is measurement method is the most reliable method. It's done with the help of metallic instrument known as periodontal probe. First of all, we will be placing the probe on the external surface. We will be measuring the distance from the marginal gingiva to mucogingival junction, and then we will be placing the probe in the gingival sulcus or in the pocket depth, and then we will be subtracting the total depth from the subtracting the pocket depth from the total depth. So first of all, we will be measuring the total distance from the marginal gingiva till mucogingival junction. This is a mucogingival junction, this is attached gingiva, this is loose mucosa. So first of all, we will be measuring the total distance and then we will put the probe in the gingival sulcus or periodontal pocket. Then we will subtract the depth of the periodontal pocket from the total. Then we will get the width of attached gingiva. As we can see in this video, first of all, we will place the probe in the in the gingival sulcus or periodontal pocket. Then we will be placing the periodontal probe from attached gingiva, from free gingival margin to mucogingival. Next is functional test or tension test. It is done functionally by passive movement of lip and cheek, and as I've already told you, it's also known as tension test. It is done by stretching the lip or cheek to demarcate the mucogingival line and to see if any movement is there at free gingival margin. We have to see the movement at the free gingival margin, and if free gingival margin moves during stretching of lip, then attached gingiva is considered to be inadequate. Let us see this in this video. By doing functional movement of lip and cheek, if there is any movement at the gingival margin, this is gingival margin, this is the marginal gingiva. So, if any movement is there at the gingival margin, then the tension test is considered to be positive. Now coming on to the staining test. The attached gingiva is revealed by staining with Schiller's iodine solution or Lugol solution. This Lugol solution, it contains iodine in it. The iodine reacts with glycogen and give brown color. The property of iodine is that it reacts with the glycogen and it will impact brown color. The oral mucosa having greater glycogen content will be stained brown and attached gingiva will remain as such. The alveolar mucosa differ histochemically in its glycogen content from keratinized gingiva. The attached gingiva, which is keratinized, has no glycogen content in the more superficial layer and give an iodine negative reaction. Thus, Lugol iodine solution stain only the alveolar mucosa and clearly demarcate the mucogingival junction. Next is roll test. Placing a probe horizontally flat against the mucosal surface and sliding it coronally. When mucogingival junction is reached, gingiva will be blanched. Let us see in this video how roll test is being done. Next is anesthesia method. By injecting local anesthesia in the depth of vestibule, only loose mobile alveolar mucosa will swell and attached gingiva will remain as such. Next is OPG assessment method. Measurement of thickness of attached gingiva. The gingival thickness can be assessed mid-buccally in the attached gingiva, halfway between mucogingival junction and free gingival groove, and at the base of interdental papillae. Various methods available are visual evaluation. Advantage: it is simple, non-invasive, easy to perform. Disadvantage: it is not a reliable method. Transgingival probing. It can be done with the help of UNC 15 probe under local anesthesia. Advantage: it is simple, less technique sensitive, easy to perform and minimally invasive. Disadvantage: it is invasive method. Measurement can be affected by angulation of probe. Modified caliper. Advantage: easy to use, reliable, and reading is reproducible. Disadvantage: invasive, only to be used at the time of surgery and cannot be used for pre-treatment. Next is ultrasonic device. Advantage: least invasive method, excellent validity and reliability. Disadvantage: it's not commercially available in India. In ultrasonic machines, two equipments are available, A-scan and SDM. And the A-scan, it has a digital display, transducer probe and built-in a printer and a foot control is there, similar with the SDM machine. So this is the ultrasonic devices that are available. There is a transducer and it is non-invasive and having a digital readout. Cone beam tomography. Advantage: it is non-invasive. Disadvantage: image analysis is difficult. It's very difficult. Factor affecting width of attached gingiva is high frenum attachment, recurrent inflammation, recession, malpositioning of teeth and osseous dissection. Attached gingiva in pediatric dentistry. Immediately upon eruption, permanent teeth do not have any attached gingiva. Inadequate width of attached gingiva will correct itself by the age of 6 to 12 years. Attached gingiva around implant. Absence of keratinized mucosa increase the susceptibility of peri-implant lesion and plaque-induced destruction. Implant with less than 2 mm of keratinized gingiva exhibit increased bleeding on probing, redness and inflammation. Adequate width of attached gingiva around implant. It will prevent spread of inflammation, prevent recession of marginal gingiva, provide tight collar around implant, enable patient to maintain good oral hygiene. So, what is this structure? This is attached gingiva. What is this structure? This is the lining mucosa. And what is this structure? This is interdental gingiva. Coming on to the interdental gingiva. Definition is: the interdental papillae is defined as a gingival tissue extending from the incisal tip of the papillae to a line tangential to the gingival margin of two adjacent teeth. Anatomy of interdental gingiva. It is formed by dense connective tissue covered by epithelium and is influenced by height of alveolar bone and the distance between the teeth and the interdental contact point. Shape. In anterior teeth it is pyramidal in shape, and in posterior teeth, due to presence of large tooth mass, it is bit concave and this area is also known as caul. And in anterior teeth Either it is pyramidal in shape or there will be a slight gingival call. So important thing is in anterior teeth, either it is pyramidal or slight call will be there. But in posterior, it is call shape. So this is pyramidal gingiva or slight call in anterior, but in posterior, this is the call shape area. This is known as call. So what is call? Call is valley-like depression that connects the facial and lingual papillae and conforms to the shape of interproximal contact. If diastema is there, then interdental papillae will be absent. It will create both aesthetic and phonetic problem. Classification of interdental papillae. The classification was proposed by Norland and Turner, and on the basis of that, it is classified as normal, class 1, class 2 and class 3. In normal, interdental papillae film occupies the gingival embrasures and entire embrasure space apical to the interdental contact point is filled. And in class 1, the tip of interdental papillae is located between the interdental contact point and the level of cemento-enamel junction on the proximal surfaces of the tooth. And in class 2, tip of the interdental papillae is located at or apical to the level of cemento-enamel junction on the proximal surface of tooth, but coronal to the level of cemento-enamel junction mid-buccally. And in class 3, tip of interdental papillae lies level with or apical to the facial cemento-enamel junction. Function of interdental gingiva acts as a biological barrier in protecting the periodontal structure, but also plays a critical role in aesthetic and phonetic. Loss of interdental gingiva. The most common reason for the loss of interdental papillae is plaque-associated lesions. So in next part 2, we will be continuing with the microanatomy of the gingiva. Thank you.